pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. In the absence of our board president, John Anderson, I will be conducting the meeting this evening. My name is David Grum, and I'm vice president. We'll right to recognitions. Yeah, there is a change in Exhibit A. Item 392, so that a motion will be made as amended. The reason was that she went to a full-time position someplace else. I believe that's the only change. 392.
Yes.
All right, we're good? Then, let's go to recognitions.
Mr. Cohn, we have two students that we are awarding diplomas to tonight since they were engaged in other activities on the day of graduation, and Mr. Greg Cohn, their coach, will introduce them, and Ms. Hanley and Ms. Campbell, would you like to hand out their diplomas? Sure. Okay.
We were playing our sectional tennis on the Saturday of graduation, so these two young men who qualified to play in the semifinals in the sectional tennis and qualified for state were not able to attend graduation. The first is Neil Shaw.
Pause for a picture there, not to interrupt you. This is a captive moment here.
Yeah. Just a quick note, Neil is he was again a state qualifier, won a couple matches of state with a partner as a sophomore. One of ours we're more proud of is a 4.58 GPA. That's what he graduated with. He's headed to Indiana University. All right, here's Sean. And second is John Westerberg. John also has a pretty gaudy GPA, but I'm going to say something else about him. John and his partner ended up winning 3 matches of state. They were named to All-State, All-State team in doubles. John had an even bigger honor. He won the State Sportsmanship Award, known as the Tom Pitchford Sportsmanship Award. That's given out to one player in the state of Illinois for his academics, his community involvement, his team, his on-court behavior, and his tennis excellence as well. So it's pretty special award, as John mentioned.
On behalf of the rest of the board, I'd like to congratulate you two gentlemen for a great representation of the Warren High School, and your parents should be so proud, and I hope that you've acknowledged them because they, I'm sure, were a contributing factor in your success. So, but we wish you the best in carrying on, and we hope you do well and keep us informed, and we'll be watching for you in the big events. All right?
Thank you.
If you would like to leave at this time, certainly welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Thank you.
Thank you, parents, for coming.
I took a quick look at the book. I didn't see anybody signed in. for visitors. Is there anybody here this evening that would like their proud moment of 3 minutes? Then we will move on to committee reports, I believe.
All the president's report.
Well, he didn't say anything to me, and I ain't got anything, so I guess we're not doing that either. Now let's go to committee reports. I believe we got a finance committee.
Yes, we had a finance committee meeting on May 27th. Included in your board packet are the minutes from that meeting. During that meeting, we covered several items, including reviewing the revised technology budget, a revised capital budget, the textbook and curriculum budget, and reduced our overall budgeted cost for expenditures on a preliminary basis. So we covered those, really the categories of salaries, benefits, purchase services, supplies, fixed assets, and tuition and non-capital outlay in a broad sense, and then in a more specific sense covered technology, textbooks, and curriculum, and capital. Are there any questions that I can answer for the board on the minutes, or any follow-up? Thank you very much.
Carol. Our next committee was policy.
The policy committee met on June 2nd. I'm just going to go through the policies that the committee considered. First, 6:235, Administrative Procedure 1 and Exhibit 2. This is the staff authorization for electronic equipment and network access. A statement was simply added about staff issued technology equipment and what the expectations were in the event that the staff member lost or damaged the equipment. 7:180, preventing bullying, intimidation, and harassment. This is informational only. The district is required to file an updated bullying policy with the regional office. This was filed on May 15th. 6:330, achievements and awards. The committee is recommending that this policy remain as is. 5:185, family and medical leave, and then 5:185, AP, the administrative procedure. The policy committee is recommending that the board adopt the Illinois Association of School Boards recommended policy on Family Medical Leave Act. Our policy manual included a reference to FMLA and referenced the negotiated agreement, and the negotiated agreement in turn referenced the board policy. So we didn't actually have the entire policy written. So the committee is recommending that the School Board Association policy is very standard FMLA language taken directly from the federal law. 2:220, there was a request at the last meeting about making sure we were referencing the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order, and that's what 220 is. The remaining policies deal with threat assessment, prevention and identification of bullying, resource guides, and so on. There were a number of exhibits and administrative procedures. Given that the board committee, the Parent Advisory Committee on Discipline will be meeting next week, the committee is recommending to table those items until after the Parent Advisory Committee has an opportunity to meet, because there was thought that perhaps some of what is being recommended here would be addressed by the Parent Advisory Council. So all of those were tabled until after the Parent Advisory meetings.
Thank you, Mary. And we'll jump right back into you with the superintendent's report.
The end of the year, brings with it a fewer staff and fewer students in the building, although summer school started yesterday. Things went very well. We have summer school programs up and running at Almond and Oak Lane, and so things went very smoothly. We also have our athletic teams are doing exceptionally well. Mr. Pose, since Mr. Pose has all the specific details, if you would just please just give a little synopsis of our volleyball and girls softball and lacrosse and cross country and all of these wonderful athletes.
Good evening. We'll try to stay in order here. It started with our girls track team. We had our VA team finish 8th in the state, and we had Brittany Ellison finish 3rd in the 400. We actually, a side note with Brittany Ellison, she's going to be playing in the competing in the World Youth Games in China in August. She's one of 17 U.S. athletes that will be going. She had the best qualifying time in the 400 to be able to go there. So I was actually talking to her dad, and they're pretty excited about that. He was a little worried about her missing a week at school, and I said I think it'll be okay. So it started with that. The boys lacrosse team, they were seeded #1 in the Class B boys lacrosse tournament state series, and we played in the state finals and lost to Naperville Central 6-4 in a very exciting match. We had about 400 people at the game watching it. It was really impressive. It was fun to watch them play this year, and they certainly represented the high school and the community very well. And then we began our volleyball postseason, and talk about getting hot at the right time. They did, and they qualified for the Elite Eight. It's kind of the old format that IHSA used to have, where you had to play on Friday night to win on Friday night to get to the trophy mound. And we beat. On Friday night. We won on Friday night, beat Peyton out of Chicago, and then we played Lombard West and beat them in 3 sets in an exciting match, and then we played in the championship game and lost in 3 sets. The team that we lost to had only gone 3 sets in one other time the entire season, and it had never been down and never lost the first set. We had tied it at 24 with the serve and in the second set, and we just couldn't hang on. But it was a tremendous season, and really fun to watch those guys play as a group and as a unit, and certainly a different team than we saw earlier in the season. They really gelled and they really built on it. A lot of seniors, which that's not uncommon. So to try to top that, we now have our softball team. Last night beat Barrington to get to the state finals, and they will actually bring home a trophy because they are in the Final Four. They will play 5:30 on Friday afternoon down in Peoria against Lombard North. This will be the first trip ever to the state Final Four for our softball program. They did have an Elite 8 appearance back in the early 80s. It's been a really fun season for them to watch them. They beat a Lake Zurich team in the sectional final that had beaten them pretty handily during the regular season, but beat us in the conference and we played really well that day, last Saturday. And talking to Coach McNulty today, I mean, he said definitely all 3 teams that we could face, they're definitely all beatable. So they're very excited. I think it's been a very emotional year for the softball program with some of the things that happened in their personal life with their family, and I think it's really fitting that they have a chance to bring home. They will bring home a trophy, but hopefully bring home a championship trophy. So it's just been just a quiet spring for athletics.
Thanks, Mark. I would like to ask the board, we would like to recognize all of these athletes at the next board meeting because we have many of the team members are seniors and very likely will not be available in August to be recognized by the board. So if that's acceptable, we'd like to invite our lacrosse and track and volleyball and softball. Very likely we will need to move the meeting because we will not be able to accommodate the athletes and their parents in here. We had talked today very briefly about possibly the cafeteria, the smaller cafeteria that we could set up on the 24th, so we'd be able to recognize the athletes. So if that's okay, then we'll move ahead and do that. We were scheduled on the 24th to have the gentleman from the Wetlands Research Group come and meet with us. If board thinks we can have them come also or postpone until July, they are prepared to come and discuss this with the board. It's just that when we talked today about all of our athletes, it appears that the agenda for the 24th might be pretty packed. So if you would like, I can contact them and see if they can join us in July. Okay. Okay. Yes. And I have very good news today, and thank you, Mary Kawarek and Mr. Ziegler. We have approval to enter into a contract with Gurney Mills, the Simon Group, for the location for our transition program. And we have Carol contacted Dr. Barbini from the regional office because the location needs to be approved by the regional office. I believe he said he's available Friday. I don't know if that's going to work, whatever, but we will get Dr. Barbini in there to make sure that everything is up to code as far as the regional office is concerned. And Carol and I met today with the person at Gurney Mills that is in charge of getting those contracts set up. So I would expect that on June 24th we would have a contract for the board to approve, and we would be able to take possession of the space July 1st. The Simon Group is willing to offer a 3-year contract, and we're extremely excited about being able to move our transition program, which is a program for young adults with disabilities, into a work space. And very grateful again, Mayor, for the assistance of the village, and also to the Simon Group for allowing us to use that space. This is not a space, this is not originally intended for this use. So we are very, very excited about that. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mary. Moving on to the consent agenda. At this time, there are no items under the consent agenda, so we will move to new business. The approval of the 2013-14 final school calendar.
Just for the board's information, this is the final calendar. As you know, we had some emergency days, and those changes are reflected in the calendar. Final exams were moved back past Memorial Day because of that. So we have to submit the final 2013-14 calendar to the regional office. So that's what you have.
I move to approve the 2013-2014 final school calendar.
Second. Motion made by Mrs. Biondi, seconded by Mr. Groom. Roll call.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Conrad?
Yes.
Mr. Munda?
Yes.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Mrs. Biondi?
Yes.
Mr. Grum?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Approval of the trip to Panama. Paul? I want to go.
All right. That bodes well for us. So I'm Paul Cronstedt. I'm a biology teacher at the Oak Lane campus. And about a year and a half ago, myself and Heather Smith, was actually me and Heather talking, came here to get approval for a Costa Rica trip, which unfortunately I didn't end up going on it, but it went very well. The kids loved it. Heather said it was great. And because of that, I put together a proposal to go to Panama this time in 2015. I actually found a different group to go through. It's actually a non-profit group called Save the Rainforest. They're out of Dodgeville, Wisconsin. They are associated with one travel group in Panama for some of the logistical stuff. But it's a cheaper trip, and not only it's $1,950, which includes airfare, all transportation while we're there, any activities we're doing, as well as food for all the days we're not on an airplane, basically. And not only that, but some of that money then goes back to some of those rainforest restoration projects that we've seen. So pretty excited about that. Just to look at some of the things we'll be doing. I mean, a lot of it is we're going to be looking at different conservation projects within Panama. One thing I'm also really excited about from a scientific standpoint is all this stuff is centered near a research station that is partnered with the Smithsonian. So the kids are going to have an opportunity to actually talk with real field research scientists and get an idea of what real research is, not just scientific method amazing experience for them. And that's really the thing I'm really excited about there. But we're hoping to get 20 kids to go. And yes, I think I went through mostly everything. We're going to start doing meetings at the very beginning of August. That was one thing we learned out of last trip, is we need to start a little earlier than we did last time. I think we'll get more students.
Paul, who's eligible to go on this trip?
Any student that will be a Warren student when we go. So if they're seniors next year.
So there's no,
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have to have had a certain biology or chemistry or science class.
No prerequisites as far as that goes.
How many ended up going to Costa Rica?
I think the number was 7, and then we actually ended up getting put in with another group from another school, which they said was a very positive experience, although we were a little bummed out about our turnout, but still a great time.
Can adults go?
Well, we're not really planning on that, but
You're really not counting on that, you said? Oh,
we'll
rats.
see.
I was all excited when I read it, and I've been trying to talk my grandson every morning. I said, don't you think you want to go on this trip? No, Grandma, I'm my own body. But this is the chance of a lifetime, I keep telling you. So that's why I was interested in who could go.
Yeah, well, yes, Warren students, but yeah, it's going to be an amazing experience for them.
I think so too.
Any other questions? Can I hear a roll motion?
I move to approve biological trip to Panama from June 1st through the 9th, 2015.
Second.
Motion made by Munda, seconded by Ms. DeAndre. Roll call.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Munda?
Yes.
Mrs. Biondi?
Yes.
And Mr. Crum?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Approval to the trip to Grand Canyon. Mike or
Mike?
Kelda?
I'm really the lead on this. I'm Kelda Hudson.
Well, you got, I'm glad we got that straightened out, Mike. How you too?
Mike and I have been teaching geology together for 9 years, and we've decided it's time to take our students out to see the geology of our country. And what better place to start than one of our nation's treasures, the Grand Canyon. So we wanted to find a group that was all-inclusive, because this will be our first trip. And we found a group called Grand Classroom that focuses on geology. We plan to invite current and past students who have taken geology, honors geology, and AP Environmental. Because AP Environmental has about 25% of science content. So the students could consider this to be a capstone to their science career here at Warren. We'll be focusing on the geology that we've covered over the course of the year. But it's actually pretty hard to rule out the biology and chemistry and physics of the world around you. We'll be taking them over spring break. Almost all of our students are seniors, and so we need to do this during their senior year. So we'll be leaving on a Sunday, giving them, a little time to pack, do last minute shopping, leave on a Sunday, come back on a Thursday, giving them 3 days to recover, see family, sleep, whatever they need to do. The total cost of the trip is $1,887. That's all inclusive. It includes medical insurance, transportation, food for 3 meals a day, all of the lodging, airfare, and includes security guards at night, includes a certified EMT, lifeguard, first responder as a tour guide. So we feel that it would be a very valuable trip. And interesting side note, Paul's fiance, who he just got engaged 3 days ago, she has taken the same trip with students. And so she has volunteered to assist with question and answering sessions with this as well.
Very good. Sounds like the cat's out of the bag, Paul. Looks like you did your homework on that. Do we have any questions?
We do have about 6 people signed up for chaperones at this point. If you'd like to be on the wait list, go ahead.
Thanks, been there, done that.
I hear a motion then?
I move to approve the geology trip to the Grand Canyons from March 22nd through the 26th, 2015.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Munda, seconded by Bob Conway. Roll call.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Biondi?
Yes.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Munda?
Yes.
Mr. Crum?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Good luck to you.
Yeah.
Approval of the student fees for 2014-15 school year. Ms. Rogers.
Each year, the administration reviews the fees we charge the students for registration, parking, consumables, and other activities. We are recommending 2 changes to the last year's fee structure. We are recommending an increase of $10 per semester for parking. We do have a wait list for parking and have a lot of cars going back and forth through the parking lot, and it's very expensive maintaining the parking lot. So we are recommending that increase. We're also recommending an increase in the transcript fee from $5 to $10, and I just want to clarify that seniors graduating do, or juniors graduating for that matter, do get free transcripts up through August. Most of our requests are for more historical transcripts, and we're right now in the process of printing all of those and scanning those, so it's been a very labor-intensive process, and we'll up that fee from $5 to $10 for transcripts. So we're asking the board to approve those 2 changes.
Any questions? Hear a motion.
I move to approve the student parking lot fees and transcript fees for the 2014 to 2015 school year.
I second.
Motion made by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Mrs. Biondi. Roll call.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Mr. Munda?
Yes.
Mrs. Biondi?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
And Mr. Crum?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Approval of the prevailing wage for 2014-15. Ms. Rogers.
The Prevailing Wage Act requires that school districts pay prevailing wage, which is determined by the Lake County prevailing wage. Actually, it's adopted June 2014 prevailing wage amounts by trades. They require school districts to pay that for most projects that we would run into. So each year we do ask the board to approve the resolution adopting the rate of prevailing wages for 14-15, which we have included a copy of the rates for you and the resolution. Are there any questions that I can answer for the board?
I move to approve the resolution adopting the rate of prevailing wages for 2014-2015 as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Biondi, seconded by Mr. Munda. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Munda?
Yes.
Mrs. Biondi?
Yes.
Mr. Crum?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Approval of expend funds for 2014-2015 school year. Mrs. Rogers.
In order to start our purchasing process for the 14-15 school year and to start paying payrolls in July, we are asking the board to approve allowing us to spend up to 25% of the preliminary first draft of the budget, which was presented at the May 27th Finance Committee meeting. This will allow us to get school up and running, and since our budget is not due till September, allows the district to continue operating. So we're asking you to give us permission to spend up to 25% of the preliminary first draft budget.
Carol, is this the budget, the proposed budget you're talking there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Earl, is there a way we can just, I would feel more comfortable if it was an amount, because this number, we don't know where this is going to be until the end of June, right, when we get our numbers from the county?
Actually, our expenditure budget, it's at 25% of our expenditure side of the budget, so, we're hoping what we presented to you preliminarily is not gonna change by more than a couple $100,000. So 25% of that would be a range of really a variance of $50,000. If you would like me to specify a dollar amount, 25% of the $52 million would be approximately, let's just say,
13 million.
13 million. So I can specify, if I want me to, we'll specify 13 million. That's, then if the board would like to change the motion.
I move to approve allowing the district to spend up to 13 million of the preliminary first draft, the 13 million of the preliminary first draft of the FY15 expenditure budget until a final FY15 budget is adopted by the Board of Education.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Bianchi, seconded by Mr. Munda. Roll call.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Munda?
Yes.
Mrs. Biondi?
Yes.
Mr. Crum?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Approval of a resolution authorizing the destruction of certain verbatim recordings for December 20th, 2011, January 10th, 2012, January 24th, 2012, February 14th, 2012, and February 28th, 2012.
Move to table the resolution authorizing the destruction of certain verbatim recordings listed in the agenda as it conflicts with the resolution.
I second the motion. And the discussion.
The resolution lists dates beginning January 10, 2012. The agenda lists destruction of records beginning December 20, 2011. So the dates differ, but there's a bigger problem in this, in that when I served on the Woodland School Board, after we had replaced the Hodges and Luigi law firm, the new law firm brought to our attention there's federal case law that stated that we needed to preserve those verbatim recordings for 5 years. And the law firm Schraga Hauser put that in writing, cited the case law, and recommended that we immediately change our practice because the federal case law stated that the school district could be cited for destruction of evidence if there was anything in these verbatim recordings that pertained to anything that is still in existence, something that was still maybe a contract, or if during that time period there was a contract that there still was something
We
pending.
discussed something in closed session tonight that could be effective eventually.
Well, it's my understanding under our policy that if you want to...
Well, there was information provided for the board in your board packets and board docs regarding the board policy 2:220, the Illinois Association of School Boards information, the Illinois School Code, and the Illinois Attorney General's Open Meeting Act training information, which indicates that these recordings must be maintained for a minimum of 18 months. The issue is, I think, as is outlined in this information, the critical issue is the legal concept of germane to the board members' responsibilities, and germane to not only the board members' responsibilities, but potentially to something that may still be of concern to a board, apart from the 18 months. However, you know, the information that we have, and we did have a conversation today with Rob Swain regarding this, and he did ask if, you know, just to make sure we were absolutely crystal clear, and he had provided a legal opinion a year ago, which I can, you know, pass out to the board, in which he addressed this issue and references a particular case law.
This is federal
But
law,
he
Mary,
cites
not
state,
Illinois.
this is First Appellate State
Right.
Court.
I understand. I'm
Well,
passing out a legal opinion from the law firm that represents Warren Township High School. The issue, separate and apart from the opinion from Rob Swain, the Illinois Attorney General, the training, their training manual, the Warren Board policy, speaks to the issue of germane being something that is current from the standpoint of an issue that either was addressed or dealt with in the past or may continue. And so in looking at the recordings that are being recommended for destruction, there are no, and Rob asked that question and we confirmed there are no issues in these recordings that are germane to what is going on, nor to what could be going on in the future. So,
And there, can I ask, a disabled, a special ed student, parents can take action until they're 21, correct?
till the day before their 22nd birthday.
Okay,
Right,
thank you.
right. And so, you know, if,
And we did not get to look at the minutes from these meetings as we did previously as we voted to.
well, as you notice, Mrs. Biondi, the dates, these are dates that predated your election to the Board of Education.
That does not exclude me from being able to know what the content
It
is.
does not, and as is indicated in the written documentation that was provided to the board members, Rob did suggest that the board adopt a best practice procedure in which any board member who wished to review closed session minutes or recordings would submit a written request either to the board president or superintendent.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah, specifically explains that board members' thought process on why they think those minutes are germane. So the board member would need to have a rationale in order to have access to those minutes, separate and apart from reviewing the minutes and then saying, oh, I think I would like to see more of this, so that's the germaneness. The germaneness has to be established before as part of the request.
I
Yeah.
understand that. But we haven't, well, the motion's on the floor.
Yep, it is. So,
Steve,
Miss-
There's a motion to table this.
yep, that's what I got.
Right.
I'm all over it.
Yep.
Motion has been made to table it by Mrs. Campbell and was seconded by Ms. Biondi. Roll call.
Okay, now can you explain if we're voting yes or no, which way we're voting?
Voting- Voting to table it would be yes, you're in agreement, no, you're not.
I just wanted to be sure that was something.
Well, how is this gonna be resolved then?
Then we're
Table
gonna,
till the next resolution.
if it passes, it's tabled. If it doesn't, then we're gonna approve this tonight. Be done with it.
Is there anything that Rob should be?
We spoke, Jean spoke to Mr. Swain today, and there's nothing that he provided for us today, including a citation on federal case law, that would warrant, or his recommendation that we change any practice or procedure that the board has previously engaged in. You know, I know that, I'm sure the board members are aware, different law firms have different opinions on everything. And there are typically recommendations. Only if something has been litigated through the Supreme Court would there be an opinion that would be issued saying you absolutely must do something. So I have no idea what Shraga, what they were referring to, what the federal case law is that they were referring to, and it sounded, Catherine, from what you said, they were saying their recommendation was.
But they address a number of things. They also address the fact that statute of limitation, that 18 months doesn't even cover state law statute of limitations, which typically is 2 years from the time that you realize that you have a claim. So if someone realized they had a claim against the district, their statute of limitations would begin from the time they discovered that they had the claim, and it would go for 2 years. So that means that you could have from 2 to 3 years. Usually within 3 years, someone would figure out they had a claim and get an attorney. But I don't see any federal case cited here, but the federal case dealt with the fact that the state law basically doesn't even cover the statute of limitations, and it was perceived as destruction of evidence.
Could it be possible that you get that letter from Woodland?
You know, I think that is not my role or responsibility. The board employs the law firm. And so if the Board of Education wanted to entertain the idea of a different law firm, that would be entirely up to the board. It would be outside, it would be, in my opinion, inappropriate for me to be seeking information from a law firm that does not represent this Board of Education.
But they didn't cite, can he cite or reference? There's nothing federal here. These are state cases. All of these cases are state cases.
Again, I think it's the board has hired Hodges and Louisi to represent the Board of Education. And it would be my understanding that if the board is choosing to continue to employ Hodges and Louisi, they would accept their legal opinions, because that's what the board is paying for. And different law firms have different opinions about absolutely everything. So if the board wanted to have a conversation about changing law firms, that would entirely be the purview of the board. That would not have anything to do with me. I think the issue right now is we did our due diligence in checking with the law firm that represents the board, and the information that we received virtually an hour before closed session was a reaffirmation of the information that Mr. Swain provided to me and to the board a year ago. And so that's the information that I have to present to the board.
Did Mr. Swain go over the two separate lists, the list that's on the agenda that has December 2011 through February 28, 2012, and make sure that none of the meeting minutes include any issue that's pending? And then did he look at the conflicting resolution that begins January 10th, 2012 and ends on March 19th, 2012, and review that list too?
If I could just make one comment. The resolution actually states that the minutes for December 20th were approved on January 10th. So if you look at the dates at the end of each one of those sentences, those are the actual dates that are represented in there.
So he looked at all of those meeting minutes and said that there's nothing still pending.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely. And that's what the conversation was with Mr. Swain today. And we discussed, Jean was the person discussing this with him, and he reaffirmed that there is nothing in those minutes that is pending or would be expected to be pending at any point in the future.
How come you didn't write the letter? And why doesn't it say that in the letter?
Kevin, this letter is from a year ago, May of 2013. But Jean spoke to Rob Swain today. It's not uncommon for attorneys to have associates prepare documents for them. That's a very common practice in a large law firm.
Nothing would be accomplished by tabling this.
Not in the opinion of the law firm that represents the Warren Township High School Board of Education.
And Rob was aware of the differences between the certain verbatim here and the differences in this.
She preferred to write the difference.
Yeah.
Right, there are no differences. The very first date where it says
December 20th, 2011.
is what it represents in motion, December 20th, 2011.
Okay.
Nothing here in what it says the legal opinion says and what the letter says addresses the fact that the liability of the district could be destruction of evidence and not preserving the evidence during the statute of limitation time period. It only deals with, these two things are talking about whether a board member wants to access certain recording things, but it has nothing to do with the overall picture of the liability to the school district.
Catherine, again, Mr. Swain indicated to us there was nothing in these minutes that, in his opinion, would result in litigation.
Okay, I think we beat this up. So we do have a motion on the floor, and I did ask for a roll call.
Okay, the motion is to table this motion.
Table.
Motion is by
Second.
Councilman Campbell.
Table the
Second.
resolution.
Yep, seconded by Ms. Vian.
Mrs. Conway.
No.
Mr. Munda.
No.
Mr. Street.
No.
Mrs. Bialy.
Yes.
Ms. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
No.
There are 2 yes, 4 no, motion fails.
Can I move?
Not passed.
Can I move to approve the resolution authorizing the destruction of certain verbatim recordings for December 20th, 2011, January 10th, 2012, January 24th, 2012, February 14th, 2012, and February 28th, 2012.
Second.
Motion has been made by Barb Conway, seconded by Mr. Mundo. Roll call.
Mr. Street.
Yes.
Ms. Campbell.
No.
Mrs. Bialy.
No.
Mr. Munda.
Yes.
Mrs. Conway.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
4 yes, 2 no, motion carries.
We move on to approval of the regular meeting minutes and executive session minutes of May 27th, 2014.
I move to approve the regular meeting minutes and executive session minutes of May 27th, 2014.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Conway, seconded by Mr. Mundo. Roll call.
Discussion.
Okay.
Again, the minutes are wrong. They do not indicate the reason that Mr. Munda abstained from voting on a student discipline. They have to do that. And if you insist that the attorney, our law firm, is correct, then I would like a written response from Rob Swain stating that we are correct in omitting the reason that Mr. Munda has abstained on student disciplines. And it should be in the minutes that he has abstained and the reason he abstained. So I would like a written letter from him saying that it's okay, so that we are protected. We meet with the board.
I thought it was said that he wasn't, he did not have to explain.
He said he didn't have to. According to the law, he does. According to the Ethics Act of Illinois, he is required to explain why he's abstaining because he is the principal, and also it needs to be recorded in the minutes why his abstention was.
It is a part of the meeting minutes, it's recorded because
It is not reported why he abstained. It is not recorded. The official minutes that are on the website do not indicate why he abstained. He has to indicate, and it has to be in the minutes.
Well, I'll give Rob a call and we'll just get that straightened out.
I want it in writing, please.
We could try to do that. So, I heard a motion. Roll call.
Motion by Mrs. Conway, second by Mr. Munda.
Yep.
Mr. Street.
Yes.
Ms. Campbell.
No.
Mrs. Bialy.
No.
Mr. Munda.
Yes.
Mrs. Conway.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
4 yes, 2 no, motion carries.
Approval of payment of bills for 6/10/14 in the amount of, is that $7 million? No, $717,400. $46.22.
Are you making a motion?
No,
I just
can
wanted
I hear a motion?
I move to approve the payment of bills for 6/10/14 in the amount of $717,046.22.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Munda, seconded by Mrs. Conway. Roll call.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Thank you. I am confused.
Wait a minute, are we talking about bill payment?
Yes, we are.
No, we're not. We're done with that. You had your chance before the meeting
I
on
am
Monday.
talking about bill payment, Mr. Grum. Could you just let me say what I need to say?
Did you direct your,
I'm telling you, no.
were there any
Point
questions?
of order.
Were there any questions that
Point
were brought?
of order. It doesn't matter whether there were questions or not. I have the right to ask a question.
Well, I'm going
in
to
a
silence
meeting.
that right now, Mrs. Bionde, and we're going to go for a roll call.
You're going to hold me?
Yeah.
You're not going to do point of
No,
order?
I'm
Then
not.
I suggest that you better read Robert's Rules of
Yep,
Order.
I did.
You did, good. Then,
Let us go.
give me
Let's
your
move
rules
on.
of order.
Gene will have,
Barb, give me your rules of order. Your Robert's Rules of Order. You should have them, you're the secretary.
you're disrupting the meeting, Mrs. Bionde.
I'm
I've
not.
told you that I'm not going to do that, so let's move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Biondi?
No.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Munda?
Yes.
And Mr. Brown?
Yes.
5 yes, 1 no, motion carries.
Approval of hiring recommendations per Exhibit A. As amended, I'm sorry, you're right. I missed that.
And did that have to be part of the resolution? I thought that was just an action that we were, it was going to be something that was posted.
I just want to say, and
I think that Rob is not clear about this, and
I don't know.
I'd like it in writing, Brown.
well, the thing is, he talks in circles in writing, so, you know, the specific thing that the school district got in trouble for was doing exactly what we have here. We've referenced Exhibit A and the
Okay,
numbers.
but as I said, when I left a message for you, you referenced the Geneva case, and what Rob indicated to me was the Geneva School District was cited because they only gave numbers. We give names and numbers, and the names are posted with the agenda on all the doors of both of our campuses. So it's not the same as the Geneva case. And
I thought we talked about just saying, to cover our basis, that we would say Exhibit A as amended and as posted. to make
absolutely,
sure
that's
we're
not a
covered.
problem. That's not a problem, to say as posted, because they are posted and all the names are listed
Right.
with the numbers, correct. And I apologize, because he did say, as long as you include the resolution as posted, because people have had an opportunity
Right.
to look at the exhibit. So I apologize for not including that.
So the motion be as amended, as posted.
Correct. Correct.
So I move to approve Exhibit A, hiring recommendation 372 through 396, as amended, as posted.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Munda, seconded by Mrs. Campbell. Roll call.
Or just a moment?
No.
All right, motion by Mr. Munda, second by Ms. Campbell. Mrs. Conway?
yes.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Mrs. Biondi?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Munda?
Yes.
And Mr. Brown?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
First reading of the district board policies and administrative procedures.
On that,
Yes, we did. Old business. We
I'd
have,
like to thank the board for letting Catherine and me present diplomas tonight. We finally got to do something at a meeting.
That wasn't old, we just did that today. That's new.
But it's
We're in
like
old
we've been
business.
asking to do it, and do something for quite a
Well,
while.
there you go. So, under old business, approval of 2014-15 student parent handbook changes.
this was tabled from the last meeting, we provided a red line copy for Mrs. Biondi and Ms. Campbell of the, a summary had been provided the last time they had asked for a red line copy of the changes, and those were provided. All the board members were given the opportunity to get a copy. And so.
And thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
I do appreciate that.
You're
Now,
welcome.
I had some questions though. On page 10, we have not included the new board meetings, and we have to include the committee meetings on this page, and the dates and times and place.
Well, the board has not adopted their meeting schedule yet.
Are we going to do it?
That's later on, that's coming up.
Well, can we table this? Until
Well,
then?
as was explained the last time, this is a living, breathing document. There will be things that are added to this as before August. So if there are substantial changes, those will be brought to the board. Sometimes they are simply edits. The board is away. This will not be published until the board adopts their meeting schedule, and that will be inserted there. So we have to take action on this tonight. This has to get to the printer.
I understand that. I
Right.
just want to bring some things
Right.
to the board's attention.
Okay, so the meeting schedule will be included. There's an
Okay.
item there.
And the
There's-
committees too.
The committees, the meetings for the committees are not typically included because those meetings are not set for the entire year.
I may be wrong, but I think that they have to be provided at the beginning of the year, just as the board meetings have to be set.
In May, the board committee meetings are posted. They are posted on the doors. They are posted in the newspaper. And for some of the committees, there's only one meeting, like the safety committee meets once a year. And typically, that meeting date is set based on the schedule of all of the people that have to be included, which we don't know at this point in time, because we're talking about the chief of police and the chief of the fire department and so on. So we can't hold up this publication. I mean, I could pick a date out of the air and say, February 5th, but that
They
is,
pick that date, but
It's
it's
not
not
required.
it's not required to include it in this document. They're required to be posted, which they are. They're
required to be posted. They are required to be posted just as the meetings of the Board of Education are required to be posted at the beginning, the same time that the Board of Education meetings. But let's drop that, okay?
Good.
That's fine.
Okay.
I want to go to page 12, and in the red down at the bottom, the second from the bottom line, it says that that the entire project to be completed at a cost of nearly $12.8 million. My understanding, and from the newspaper reports, was it was 13.5. Now, does the 12.8 plus the 700 make the 13.5 that was in the newspapers and that I've heard bandied around by this board?
Which page is that?
Page 12,
Page 12.
the last red line paragraph.
Second line from the bottom, in the red, from the bottom.
I would have to verify that amount. I can't answer that question at this time. So if the board would like, we need to get this to the printer. I can verify the number and make sure the correct number is in there.
Okay,
But we do have to get the book.
I understand that.
And I'm very happy to double check the
I would
exact
appreciate
number.
that. That's why I'm bringing it up, because it was in a newspaper article. It's been bandied around by the board that it was 13.5. So I don't understand why we're saying 12.6. All right, next thing, page 15. Is this page going to be blown up? I'm assuming that these were reduced for some reason, and that this page will be a full page rather than a partial page. Am I correct?
What page? I'm sorry.
15, I'm sorry, 15.
You're talking about the full
Right.
The version that you're looking at, and then you do edits within the tracking system, that's why they're smaller.
Okay, but the page will be blown up in the book, correct?
It would be a full page.
It would be a full
Correct.
page, that's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Next question. I had asked last year, and I thought it was agreed that the Lake Starts would be included on the calendar, and they are not included on the calendar, so.
They are included on the calendar on the right-hand side.
Right-hand side. Help me, please.
Down at the bottom.
Down at the bottom.
Okay, thank you. All right. I thought those would be incorporated with the dates here. That's what I was talking about, was that, for example, on August 25th would be inserted after August 14th and before September 1st. That's what I meant by incorporate.
We talked about that, but the information we had received from individuals or families that commented was they preferred the list separate, so they didn't have to search through the list of all the dates or search through the calendars, if they just had a list of the school improvement planning days.
Okay. All right. On page 23. At the top of the page, emergency information, second line, maintaining up-to-date, I think it should be maintaining up-to-date and accurate information is important. Also on the same page, the following local television stations will be notified and the following local radio stations. It appears from, if I were just reading the first part and not looking at the second part, that all local stations would be, and that's obviously not true on the local radio stations. If I have typos and punctuation, I would just send it to you, Mary.
Yes.
Okay. Page 26, calls by, at the top of the page, calls by students will be permitted during the school day per the school apostrophe S technology policy. Okay? Other things I will just send you via an email, but since that was a red highlighted one, I wanted to point that out. I also want to say that on page, it's not numbered, but it's page 31, transportation and parking. The Department of Children and Family Services should not be given access to any of our videos without a legal document demanding it. And the reason for that is we are violating parents' rights. And if we're going to be violating parents' rights, which is a federal law, then we better have something to back up why we're doing this. Then also on that page under student parking, I assume you're going to update that the fee is going to be $240 rather than $230 per year.
If I can just comment regarding the DCFS reference, as you know, the sentence starts out inappropriate circumstances. And whenever we have a request from DCFS or law enforcement, they provide the required legal documentation.
They do a subpoena. Okay, I didn't know.
I want to go back to
that was what I was concerned about.
I want to go back to that paragraph, because it says inappropriate circumstances, but it doesn't explain what the definition of appropriate circumstances are. I think I understand what's being said. I think that should be taken off, and it should say, the superintendent may be required to show a videotape to other government agencies, including law enforcement agencies. And I think the whole Department of Children and Family Services needs to be taken out of that, because that would fall under the chapter, 16, and how it relates to FERPA. I think there's a huge problem on chapter 16 with compliance with FERPA, but the only time that those videotapes should be given is when it involves the law enforcement agency.
We are required, if a representative from DCFS or law enforcement arrives on the scene with appropriate legal documentation, we are required to provide what they are requesting. And that's what appropriate circumstances refer to.
Well, then it would be covered under FERPA, which would be the court order or the search warrant.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. We don't just hand out, copies of videotapes to people showing up, law enforcement or otherwise. They must produce identification that in fact they represent the agency that they say they do, and that they produce the appropriate documentation.
There is a problem with DCFS. I can tell you, I know that
Okay.
there is in terms.
I think one of the problems here is that there was no questions prior to tonight's meeting, and it's a shame we couldn't get together and do something prior to the meeting to get this, whether
Talk
they're
about business outside of the meeting.
typos or,
The questions, if, we've asked that the board submit questions by Monday at 3 o'clock, so we have adequate time to prepare responses if that's necessary, or have documentation available for the board.
And maybe the board members have to do this because it's on our time when we have time too. For example, on page 46, you didn't update the correct website of www.d121.org at the bottom of the page. I went through the whole book because I thought that was important. And there, for example, on page 50, which isn't numbered, the GED fees, didn't they change by law January 1st?
The document that the board, that the two of you received, is the compilation of work of a variety of administrators. And this is not the final document, but we have provided a summary of the changes. You had asked to see the red line. This you can see based on the fact that the margins are such as they are. What were in the margins were recommended changes, edits, and so on. Before this would be sent to the printer, we would go through it again and make sure that all of the information is accurate and that typos are taken away and the grammar is correct and so on.
But this isn't from my perspective, this isn't a criticism of the work the administration does, but I do think that the 7 of us, 6 of us here tonight, our job, we have to vote and we have to approve this and we have to answer to the parents and the community about this book. And I think that we need to take it seriously. And I think that saying send your issues to somebody else, no, board business is here. This has on our agenda tonight that we're approving this handbook. We need to discuss it here. If we're supposed to vote for this and we're supposed to be the ones that, that parents are going to come to us or the community or, internal community that asks questions, external community, they're going to ask us. We're the ones that have to vote for this. And the board business shouldn't happen on a fax or an email. It happens here at the board table. That's just my personal feeling.
And I'm not recommending that the board business be done outside of the board meeting. What I'm saying is, if board members have questions that we can be prepared to answer or provide an answer, then we would like to be able to do that. I'm not suggesting that we have separate illegal meetings outside the board meeting. I'm not suggesting that at all. Obviously, I know you're not. But just to be clear, this is a lengthy process that goes on for several months with the input of a number of staff members. But this is not the final, because there is really no final. As things change, as we have said, there are updates and changes that are made. This was provided so that you would have verification that a small group didn't sit in the district office and just make this up. You see the changes that were recommended by the administration, and that's the process. That's what you have in front of you. But this is not the final document. So,
okay, here's my concern. I don't want something going out to the public that my name appears on that is either grammatically incorrect, that failed to address something, and all I want to do is are there typos or anything like that? I want this to be a perfect document. I guess that's my problem.
and Liz, it will be as perfect as human beings are able to make it. We look through it, we edit, we have different people look at it again. Are there any more typos? Is there anything else that is incorrect? We make every effort to have the document be absolutely correct. I'm not going to tell you that there aren't going to be some things that perhaps will escape all of us, but it's certainly not done intentionally.
Okay, all right, can we go to page 64? On page 64, we talk about tobacco products, and nothing is mentioned about e-cigs here, and I heard on the radio tonight as I was coming that e-cigs are being marketed to students with chocolate flavors and all these different flavors, and that they're considering doing something about e-cigs because they're actually tobacco products that are being marketed to students and young people. I mean, you know, elementary school, middle school kids. And so I didn't see e-cigs here, and I thought maybe we could address that. I know there's another place that says something about it.
I think, Liz, you said it's being considered. What we can state categorically that is not allowed are possession of tobacco products. We cannot yet say that e-cigs they're not tobacco products. Now, some people are attempting to say they are tobacco products, or they'll pretend tobacco products, but right now, there is not a law that says e-cigs are illegal. And so we're not going to put something in the student handbook and hold students accountable or penalize them or punish them for something that has not been established by the courts as being illegal for their use.
Okay, so e-cigs are allowed in school? Is that what
No,
you're
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying
because
that
I'm not
e-cigs,
clear.
right, I'm not saying that e-cigs are allowed in school. If we see somebody with that, then there would be a conversation with that person that we're not wanting you to walk around the building with that. But right now,
They would not be disciplined or anything? Or would
well,
they?
Mr. Keelan,
It's in the handbook.
It is in the handbook.
okay, thank
They
you.
are not allowed.
Okay.
Where is it? Where is it in the handbook?
I know there was something
Oh.
further in the
Between pages
back
1 and
about
2.
e-cigs. I don't
Okay.
remember.
All right.
Okay, then I just have another question. On page 71, under instructional areas library, we're telling the kids to bring their electronic devices to school. But we say the charging of wireless communication devices is not allowed during regular school hours. So what's the kid supposed to do if his iPhone dies?
Charge it the night before they get to school.
They do that, but my grandson tells me his runs out before the middle of the day because of something with Wi-Fi. I don't understand it. You all know I'm technologically an idiot, so I don't understand it, but I know that his iPhone is dead before lunch. So he needs to recharge. So if you can't recharge, what do they do?
Don't use it.
Okay.
Liz, can I just make a comment that I think a lot of this could have been handled by saying, hey, guys, I did notice some typos. You know, if you want me to give these to you, I'd be happy to. But there's it just appears like a lack of trust that you're
No, it's-
trying to point fingers and things like that.
No,
When
it's
it
not
could have been
that at all.
handled a lot, I just think it could have been handled a lot better.
Could I explain to you?
Yes.
I did not actually, I went through the whole book. I did not finish until 5:30 tonight, and I started when I got the book. You know, so I didn't have time to email my questions because obviously I didn't. But I'm just going over this so that I understand, and if I don't understand, I'm sure there are parents who don't understand. Okay? So it wasn't that I was
Continue
trying
to be told that it's a work in progress and that this is not it's a living, breathing document that will change.
I
and
understand
will
that, but
continue to be
perhaps
reviewed.
we can miss things, and I just want to make sure that they are not missed, and that's what I told Mary.
And I think that could have been handled a lot.
I have a lot of things I will email her. I have one more question. The audible electronic devices on page 72. Is that whole, the kids aren't allowed to bring these iPods and MP3 players? I guess I didn't know, I didn't remember seeing it somewhere else.
Gentlemen, do you know, is it somewhere else in the handbook?
What, portable electronic devices?
Yeah.
There's a
Audible.
BYOD policy.
Audible, there's what?
I would assume that falls under the bring your own device policy.
Okay, so that's where it is.
So we're not singling these out, is what you're saying? Okay, that's what I thought, but I wanted to be clear.
Mary, it crosses off the official records custodian. So who is the official records custodian?
Sorry, do you have
I'm on page 86. It says the assistant principal is the official records custodian. But then it's crossed off. And then in another place on 87, it implies that the custodian is the superintendent.
I'm sorry, where, what, I see the one in 86.
86.
Yeah.
Then on 87,
87.
um,
It's our page 9.
pardon, that's your page 9.
Oh,
Okay. I think I have
so your pages are different than our
All right,
pages.
I have.
Because we did further updates on it.
Okay.
Oh, on 87, to challenge a record, the parent must contact the superintendent. Is that what
Right,
you're
so is it then this, is the superintendent the custodian?
Right, the registrars are the official records custodians, but when a parent is requesting a record, they make a request to the registrar. If they have a challenge or an issue with the record, then the request would come to me. It might come to the building, to the principal, to the associate principal, and I think it was removed because we didn't want to limit it to the assistant or associate principal, because a parent might just come to the building and say, you know, I'd like to challenge something in my child's record. So ultimately, if it's something that needs to be, if there's a challenge to the record, it will come to my attention.
Mayor, is the only time a parent can opt out at registration? That's the way it sounds in, on page 8, or the military opt-out information and in the general public opt-out information. That the only time you can opt out is at the registration.
That's the time that we do it at registration. However, if a parent, you know, were to change their mind, let's say when they registered, they did not sign the opt-out form, and then subsequent to that, if they came and said, look, you know, in August I didn't sign it, but now I really don't want my son or daughter's information shared with the military, we would honor that. We're not going to say, well, you didn't sign it at registration, too bad for you.
That's what I want to
Right,
make sure.
we're just trying to get the, as,
They can do it other than
Correct.
registration
Correct.
time. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And on page 89, it's a paragraph that isn't redlined, it's not changed, but it's just confusing. It says, if you believe the district has violated or is violating this policy, you have a right to file a complaint with the United States Department of Education. But what policy are we referencing? If you believe the district has violated this policy, what policy?
Oh, it's under post-secondary educational institution.
the opt-out information.
Violating the opt-out policy?
We can put it clear. It's under that heading, but we can certainly add it in that sentence. And Liz, to your point, in that paragraph, it indicates once the form is complete, it is in effect for the duration of the student's attendance unless the school is notified otherwise. So again, if a parent changes their mind and says, I want to change what I said, then you would be notifying the school.
Oh, I took it that way.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on then. Make a motion.
I move to approve the 2014-2015 student parent handbook changes.
Second.
Motion made by Conway, seconded by Strebe. Roll call.
Mr. Munda?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Biondi?
I know you're waiting. I know you're waiting, I'm sorry. I'm trying to decide. Yes.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Crum?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
And I know we will do our due diligence on this. Approval of the 2014-15 Board of Education meeting schedule. Questions? If not, hear a motion.
I move to approve the 2014-2015 Board of Education meeting schedule.
Second. Motion made by Mrs. Biondi, seconded by Grum. Roll call.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Mr. Munda?
Yes.
Mrs. Biondi?
Yes.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
And Mr. Crum?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Gene, before we go any farther, can we go back to H? Approval of regular meeting minutes and executive session minutes of May 27th.
Certainly.
In the conversation and how it went on, how did I vote?
Vote yes.
I would like to change that vote to abstain. I was not at that meeting. Motion to adjourn. I just did. Motion to adjourn. Motion made by Conway, seconded by Strebe. Roll call.
Pardon me,
Take your time.
I'm just getting there. Motion by Conway, second by Street. Mr. Munda?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Biondi?